Evening, gentlemen. Coming back to competitive chess after World War I, Alekhine would win most tournaments he participated in the period 1921 to 27, including the super strong tournament of Baden Baden in Germany 1925, where he wiped the field with 12 wins and no losses, finishing ahead of Rubinstein, Saemisch, Bogoljubov, Marshall, Tartakower, Nimzowitsch, Grunefeld, and of course Reti, who actually had quite a bad tournament. In fact, Lasker and Capablanca were also supposed to attend, but both demanded too much money, and ultimately their large appearance fees were not met.
Now, Richard Reti was a great proponent of the hypermodern school of thought. He didn't want to occupy the center of his pawns, and as a result we have a funny-looking Alekhine opening reversed, or something of the likes. But this was years before Alekhine proposed his famous Alekhine opening, which is knight f6 on move 1 as black against e4. In any event, this game continued with knight d4, and already Alekhine has taken over a large part of the center. But Reti's argument is that these pawn moves are potential weaknesses that he'll be able to attack from a distance, which he sets about immediately, with d3 just chipping away at the center. This e4 pawn is a little bit too far advanced, and Alekhine doesn't want to commit too many resources to keeping it. He prefers to focus on his development, so he simply concedes. The white queen won't be too well placed on d3 anyway, and white could recapture with a pawn, but none of these are too appealing, to be honest. So already decided to play queen takes, and after some further development, Alekhine selects bishop b4. He's trying to disturb white a little bit. So I always think it's a very good idea to try and slightly disturb your opponent. This can easily snowball into an advantage. However, in this specific instance, I think just c5 makes more sense. I've ever noticed that Alekhine was a fan of exchanging just one pair of bishops. It does help giving you some strategic clarity on where you want to position the rest of your pawns. So indeed, further development, and now Alekhine decides to play knight a6, which is certainly somewhat provocative, but he wants to go to b4 and doesn't want to allow Reti to ruin his pawn structure here. So indeed his plan is to gain tempo on the white queen and plant his knight in the center.
So here white plays knight 2 to b3, and black plays the logical c6, which is probably forced in the long run, just consolidating against this diagonal and this file, also cementing control over the center. Play continues, castles, e8, rook fd1, just natural developing moves. Now bishop g4 is interesting because this e-pawn, which is usually quite flexible, is actually somewhat uncomfortable for white to defend. Reti ends up playing rook d2. We get queen c8, knight c5, and this strange sequence of events. Now at this point, Alekhine supposedly signed his score sheet and handed it to the arbiter, saying the position had been drawn by threefold repetition. Twice, said Reti. 3 times, Alekhine barked. And the debate apparently stems from the fact that Alekhine believed that repeating moves 3 times was a draw, whereas the rules were repeating the position 3 times make a draw. In any case, the arbiter ruled in favor of Reti, and he felt obliged to play bishop h1, which is a slightly weaker move than bishop g2, and made some of the later tactics we shall see possible.
Alekhine was no doubt somewhat displeased with Reti at this point, and therefore started aggressive machinations on the king side, to which Reti replied with queenside expansion, trying to weaken this c-pawn and ultimately win it. Alekhine, of course, takes a move to slow that down. After rook c1 and h4, he's preparing to open some lines on the king side. Oh, here we go. Queen c7, here further targeting this g3 pawn, which shall become spectacularly relevant soon. To b5, ab and ab. Alekhine uncorked the fantastic rook e3, which naturally Stockfish notices immediately.
Now, rook e3 is aesthetic and all, but you may be wondering what on earth is the point? Well, for one, mate and 12, via rook takes g3 as a threat. Shall see that if white makes a non-move here, for example b takes c6, what follows is rook takes g3, bishop g2, knight e3, f takes e3, bishop h3, mate net is closing, the knight f3, rook takes g2, king h1, and queen g3. Mate is unstoppable because of this rook h2 and queen g2 ideas. Also worth mentioning that you can't take the rook because of queen g3, obviously. And in the game, Reti opts for knight f3. Obviously flustered by this rook e3 move, he promptly makes a mistake. Better would have been bishop f3, after which bishop takes and e takes. We have also c takes, knight takes, and queen a5, and here white is doing okay, in fact.
Knight f3 has the disadvantage of not putting an immediate question to the black bishop, and in general white's position is now passive, and he is going to struggle to put together a coherent defense. From this point on, Alekhine plays with merciless precision. First taking on b5, followed by knight c3, provoking queen takes b7, but the queen trade does not allow any relief for white, who is struggling to keep his pieces together at this point. After king h2, taking on c1 would in fact produce equality, which Alekhine is not interested in. He plays the much better knight e4. After rook c4, he takes this pawn. So.
Indeed. Now let's take a moment to appreciate this position. White's king is cramped in this hole with absolutely no piece coordination. These rooks are not connected. This knight is in no man's land. This bishop's not pointing at anything. There are two octopi in white's face. This bishop is also cramping him. The rook is ready to get involved. Generally, white here is going to struggle to do anything. He ends up going for bishop g2, which is one of the only things he can do, and in fact, potentially the best move in this position. Alekhine continues with bishop e6.
Seems Reti could have struggled on by playing rook b4 here, maintaining control of g4 and the fourth rank in general. Unfortunately, rook cc2 does not have that advantage, and after knight g4, h3 and knight e5, h2, Alekhine is finally able to cash out there and convert his overwhelming positional advantage into a material one. Bishop takes f3 obviously doesn't work, since Alekhine would pick up this rook. So he plays rook takes e2, which is very well met by this check, followed by stealing this rook. And after bishop a3, knight d4 is the final blow, at which point Reti throws in the towel.
Yep, so in 3 quick forks, Alekhine converts into a stunning victory, and Reti must resign.